it going? Hey,
Oh,
hey.
wonderful. Good to see you.
Yeah, you
That's
too. You know,
I like the camouflage background.
yeah,
I do
cheers,
not
just
mind.
yeah, nice, yeah. Planned that well. It's just a little banner in the garage, so
Yeah, it's perfect. I love it. Okay, well, you go by Broad?
yeah, broad, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. And you said that you were part of marching orders as well, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I play guitar in marching orders. Yeah.
Okay. I was getting all confused. At first, I was like, does he play drums or guitar? And so I stuck with guitar though. So I was right.
Yeah,
Okay.
cool. No, you got
So
it. You got it. Yeah.
what got Brute started? I'm listening to your EPs right now and all that. I have that in the background.
Yeah, cool.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I love it. I love
No, I
the
appreciate
vocals.
it.
The vocals are so they're different, man, compared to it gives you that more of that 80s kind of almost the Buzzcocks type of vibe to me, when it comes to the vocals. Yeah, I love it. I love that the different type of style, man. I mean, you guys are bringing to the plate something totally different, and so I appreciate that because I love the scene. You obviously know I love the scene, so having you guys bring something different is amazing and wonderful and unique. So tell me, how did Brute get formed?
Yeah, cool. No, that's yeah, cheers for that. I appreciate that take on it because I think it is. It's a little bit different than as mentioned, I do play marching orders as well, so it's a little bit different to that. And I wanted to make sure it wasn't like just a bit of a spin-off that was the same kind of thing that's been done there. So it pretty much just came from just demoing. A lot of the demos that I kind of write would be directed towards or like geared around marching orders and for that or other kind of side projects along the way. So it was a bit of it's a bit of an in-between thing where marching orders, there was talk of it kind of kicking off again and
Yeah.
a bit on the sidelines where it wasn't kind of clear as far as how we go with it. So initial demos just started off as kind of potentially could have been like a marching orders song, but it kind of felt a little bit different to that. So it kind of there's a few in the wings that I had that felt like it was a little bit different direction than the marching orders stuff. And it was
Oh, it
like
totally is.
yeah.
Totally is.
And so, yeah, so it felt like it had its own little thing rather than forcing it into like a different kind of formula to work for that. So basically, yeah, just demoing at home and I'm pretty active with that. Like, usually if there's like something like a project going, songs will go towards that. But this was just something that just I kind of worked on at home initially. So it's actually like just a project, started off as a bit of a project band, where I pretty much just, yeah, had my
Is it
computer set up.
is it like a solo project, or do you have other
Yeah,
people
yeah. So
working with you?
all the recordings so far have been solo recordings. Yeah.
Wow, you
Um,
do the drums and all that.
so drums I've had. Yeah, some it's a mix of kind of like live stuff as well, like recorded stuff as well as kind of sequence programmed drums as well. So a bit of a mixed bag for that. Like some, yeah. So it's
That's brilliant. I love it.
just because I'm not a great drummer, so I kind of need a bit of help with that side of things. But yeah, kind of works for the project. So
Yeah, you
that's
do
pretty much where it's at
well.
the moment. So it's kicked
Awesome.
off just yeah, like I said, like solo project, and now it's kind of getting a bit of traction. We're looking at kind of bringing it to more of a live band as well.
Yes.
That's in the works as far as looking at doing shows and maybe some sort of launch for the project.
Yes. So you basically just have a love for writing music and all that, and just wanted to keep your mind fresh and keep your playing fresh, and so that's how this band got started, huh?
Yeah, yeah, and it
The
kind of allowed me to
in
kind of.
between type of stuff, like you said, in
Hmm.
between, because marching orders did take a little break for a while.
Yeah, yeah. So we had like almost 10 years break from things.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And that kind of kicked off again. I think we started talking about it again like maybe late 2022. And then we had and what got that kind of going again was the opportunity to do Cognitive Rejects support in Melbourne. So there was talk of that and that kind of went around the members and basically was put to us like, would we want to kind of kick it off again? And we're like, well, we don't just want to do it just for this show. If we're
Yeah,
going
of
to do it,
course.
let's do it, make a thing of it. And we ended up recruiting two new members for the lineup. Just so happened that the two of the guys weren't able to kind of jump back on board or weren't keen for it. So yeah, we
Yeah.
just two new members, two of the guys from the Clinch, the band The Clinch, Melbourne band The Clinch.
Yes.
So they were a really good fit for it as far as music
Huh.
wise. They already played together, so they fit really well as far as that dynamic. Yeah, and just guys we kind of
Yeah,
had known around the scene.
you guys are so active out there. I mean, he has his other projects going on too, firepower and
Mm.
all that. And so,
Yes, there's a bit
I mean,
going on.
how
Like,
do you guys get all this organized in your head? I mean, you got all this. Do you accidentally sometimes have you ever started playing another song when you think it's another song?
oh, I think because of yeah, it's good point actually because it does get a bit. We've had like I guess the Melbourne scene is a little bit kind of there's a lot of crossover of members and it's pretty kind of like an incestuous type setup as far as like the band members across like different bands.
Yeah.
And most of the bands I played in have been a combination of like same kind of people with kind of other people thrown in the mix as well. So I think because the style is fairly different across the bands, like as far as the same kind of genre, but
I
I
can see
think
that.
style, yeah, there is kind of uniqueness to all the projects. So I think they stand alone enough that it's not kind of this blur of kind of songs. Um, I think at one point I was playing in probably three different bands, potentially maybe
Oh,
four. So I played in a band called Stranglehold as well, with my wife. That's how we met actually, playing in the band Stranglehold. So early days of me moving down here. So did like a side project, well, like after March was kind of wrapped up, we did a three-piece called The Truth.
huh.
Um, so that was basically three of us in marching orders who just had similar type songs and did that. Um, we did a hardcore band called Lion Fight, so that's another kind of
Hmm.
singer. The drummer from Marching Orders sang in that one, um, and we had another singer from he sang in All in Brawl. He sings in Loose Cannons now. Yeah, a whole bunch of crossover stuff going on. So
Yeah. So, what got you into wanting to play music? Did you have family? Did you grow up in music and all that, musically inclined family, or did
yeah,
you learn this all yourself?
yeah. No, my family was my dad and mum were both kind of I suppose from like the Sharpie era in Melbourne, so they're based down here, and they're into kind of like Lobby Lloyd, Billy Thorpe, and the Aztecs, that kind of that vibe.
Yes.
And I think it just transferred to me as far as like they always had kind of music playing, and my dad was a big Jimi Hendrix fan as well, and um, yeah, like AC/DC, they used to share stories about AC/DC in their early shows, and
Hmm.
I think that stuck. Like they remember seeing AC/DC before they really popped off, and just like a local pub, and my
One of
mum
my
kind of
first vinyls, for those about the rock album.
oh
That's
yeah, yeah,
that was my first vinyl. That and
yeah, cool,
Kiss.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, good mix.
Kiss
Yeah,
Alive.
so that kind of just stuck with me, I think. And they always had just music, like instruments around. And there's this early photo of me, probably like I think I was about two or three or something. But I'm standing there with like a microphone stand set up and a guitar. So it was kind of, I think, ingrained pretty early as far as probably wanting to do something like that or seeing that and wanting to replicate it in a way, I suppose.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, so you consider yourself a skinhead band?
It's a as far as brood or marching orders or just
Yeah, yeah, Brute. Not much orders. We're not talking about them anymore, really.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's
cool.
this is
Yeah.
about you, bud.
Yeah, sweet. I think Brute, it probably would be filed under that, like skinhead adjacent, I suppose. As far as labeling though, I think it fits like the Oi category, so I suppose that association comes along with that.
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
I suppose a lot of the imagery and kind of and style, I suppose, fits into that box.
And how do you how did you get into the skinhead scene? How do you believe it? I mean, what do you believe about it? Your viewpoints.
I think from my point of view, I think music kind of came first, like as far as like that was the type of music I was drawn to. And then
Yes.
moving down to Melbourne, I was up in the north coast of New South Wales. And I moved down here probably 2009, 2008. So I pretty much moved into the scene where, like, I came down here to join marching orders. Um,
Yeah,
and that was, I suppose, a pivoting moment as far as like the bands that I wanted to play in and the style of music I wanted to play as well.
gotcha.
Um,
Yeah,
and I think as far as just falling into the scene, like a lot of my mates and a lot of like the people I was kind of hanging out with were part of that, like that
yeah,
march, well, initially that marching orders kind of circle. And with that came kind of like the skinhead crowd and punk crowd. So,
of course.
um, yeah. So I think that's initially it was just the music first, and that was something I was drawn to as far as, um, yeah, just music that stuck with me and just, um,
That's good.
I think that's the initial kind of grab, I think. And then
Yeah.
just the
The
scene
reason
kind of came along with it.
Yeah, the reason why I mention it is, because some people are still kind of uncertain about the scene and don't quite
Mm.
understand it as well. Um, and so that's why I'm kind of trying to bring it out, let people
Yeah.
hear from their own mouth, that, this is all about decency, about unity, about respect for each other, the brotherhood,
Mm.
and keeping keeping the music alive, and it's not about no hate and all that. And
Yeah.
so, and just letting everybody know that. So, thank you. I
Yeah, I think
appreciate
that's
you
and that's
clarifying that.
yeah, and that's a great point. I think it's sometimes we get caught up in a lot of like the politics of things and
Ugh,
like and
ugh.
tag with like the brush of like this is how it is, or they've had a bad experience with whatever kind of subculture. Um and I think there's always going to be a little bit of kind of that prejudice or like some sort of like just how they think it is or perception of the scene and perception of kind of bands that associate in that scene.
Yeah.
Um, Australia definitely has, or Melbourne, I suppose, who's talking specifically, has had that negative aspect creep in.
Mm.
And it does impact, I think, on just the general kind of run-the-mill people who are just into it for the music or the scene and that, like I said, that unity side of things.
Yeah.
Um, so I think in some ways there is that little bit of struggle to kind of, in a way, I suppose, prove there's no kind of like sketchy kind of alliances or
Yeah.
um, agendas going on with it. And that's just, I suppose, the nature of different
The nature
subcultures.
of the beast, man. The nature of the
Yeah,
beast.
yeah. And I think as
Can't
far
get
as where
around
we're
that.
kind of down here, we're kind of removed from a lot of that as well. We can kind of do our own thing. And basically, we just kind of assume that hopefully everyone just knows that we're in it for the right reasons and there's no kind of like agenda that can creep in with some sort of some bands and some kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
music, I
Definitely.
suppose.
Yes. That's great. That was a great point. Great point, actually. So your influence on Brute, what do you
Hmm.
consider your influence?
I think
Because you really do have a unique sound. It's it's almost that 80s 90s, that 90s
hmm,
punk, vibe that I
yeah,
get from you.
yeah,
That, and so I mean it's amazing. Are you the one you're doing the vocals, you're doing all that? So
yeah,
I
yeah,
love the way your style of singing is just it's so different. And that's keep doing what you're doing. All your EPs are amazing. So
yeah.
uh
Cheers, no, appreciate that.
yeah. So
I think
you don't
influence-wise,
go ahead. Go
sorry,
ahead.
yeah, influence-wise, I think a lot of people kind of describe it like UK 82, that kind of vibe.
Yeah, it
Um,
is
I think
totally.
that kind of crept in, but I think um, there's one of the songs on the EP called New Voice. I think that kind of is a bit of like a tribute for the stuff, the newer kind of breed of Oi that I was listening to and kind of influenced that and kind of crept into my, I suppose, songwriting side of things. But I think like is this more about like I suppose the like throwback to that UK too, but then also there's kind of really awesome mix of like Oi bands and punk bands that have kind of kicked off recently or in recent years.
There's
Um,
been a lot of good ones.
yeah, I think bands like Crown Court,
I
and even
love
like
those.
more recent like Mess.
Yep.
And the whole wave of like French stuff that's happening as well. So one of the things that kind of got me into like listening a bit more French stuff was that Paris on Oi compilation.
Hmm.
And just like just a great mix of bands like Kran, there and there. Who else is yeah, or even Montreal, Baton Ame. So I
Yeah,
saw those guys play the other night, and just bands like that, like the new kind of new wave of Oi that's kind of has its own thing, has its own sound, and I think that
yeah,
kind of rubbed off.
exactly.
I was trying to capture a
That's
little bit of that in this project.
yeah. Sometimes I mean it's understandable, that the scene has like certain sayings. It's a way of life, and this and that. And it's like you guys go off in your own little way, So it's some tea, huh?
I green tea is just for the voice this morning. I had to still waking up a little bit, so
So yeah, and so that's why I had to lost the tea totally got me sidetracked. I love
new
tea.
so the new wave of things, I suppose, is kind of
It does. It does. So,
new wave of things.
do you feel that since you start, when did it start actually, Brute? Or how
So I'm gonna
long
say
has this project been going on?
I think early demos probably late 2022, early 2023, around that time, I think, yeah. There's been
Okay.
songs that have been in the wings for probably even like a few years now, like since we did the project The Truth. So we had that band as well. So when that wrapped up, there was still some demos that I had just on hand and
Do you
reworked.
feel that? Do you feel like it's getting better, more of a complete sound? Like is it maturing? Your
I,
sound.
yeah, I think it's kind of come to its own thing. Like I think, um, yeah, I think it's got a bit more direction as far as the sound now. I think there's a bit more purpose, a bit more kind of like a deliberate choice to kind of travel down a particular sound, I think now. Whereas initially it was just kind of however the demos turned out and they turned out. So I think it's a bit more kind of cohesive now as far as the songs kind of starting to sit better next to each other, I think.
Gotcha. So do
Whereas
you
the EP,
have show? Go ahead. Go ahead. My bad.
I think, yeah, as far as the EP, I think some of those were because they're written kind of different stages of different projects and potentially could have worked for different projects.
Yeah,
Now
I
I think
get you.
there's a bit more kind of, if I'm writing it, there's a bit more kind of direction with that writing or a bit more purpose, I think.
Gotcha. So you said that you haven't done any shows yet.
No, not
And
yet.
so do you have any in the works?
We're looking at potentially well, yeah, next year. I think this year's kind of on the wrap up. So we just recently
But
played a show with marching orders last week. Had like a mini fest that you interviewed Al singing from marching orders. Yeah, so he puts on or he's starting to put on a like a mini festival called Still Out of Order. So that we had the second one of those that we recently played at. So that's been kind of the focus at the moment. Um, and then looking, yeah, probably next year. There's a band, or Dave from No Class has a band now called Cantona. So um,
brilliant. Yeah.
similar type vein
Cool.
as Brute, I suppose. And we're looking at potentially next year doing kind of shows together and planning around that. So either early, kind of hopefully early next year. That's the plan. So we're looking at hopefully
Awesome.
there'll be a re-release, or there's I just got word from Lionheart Records that there'll be a re-release of the initial EP, so that 12
Yeah.
inch. Yes, that'll be
Yeah.
repressed. Um, and then there's also another 7 inch coming out for Fire and Violence.
Oh, brilliant. Being in Australia, is it a little bit harder for you to find places to play? I know you haven't played yet necessarily for Brood, but
Hmm.
for the other projects, for marching orders, do you have to you have to go to UK? Do you have to travel a lot in order for you to get
We can,
shows?
we, yeah, we can. As far as local shows, it's fairly easy to line that up, and it's just a matter of just hitting up kind of fairly similar bands or like bands we know. It's a fairly, as far as the scene down here, like it's fairly easy. You'd know kind of most of the bands and most of the people from bands. So,
Okay.
um, and I suppose as far as much, I was like made a choice not to play a lot of shows just because we're either focusing on writing, and we did have so last year we had a like mini tour and played Dresden Pogo Roush Festival. So
Hmm.
that was the focus for then. So we haven't we haven't really looked at too much as far as there's kind of offers and talks of playing kind of overseas and things. but it is because of distance wise, it's pretty tricky to kind of line up as far as costs to get across anywhere really, and
God,
um,
that's
we're
what I
fairly
was getting
removed.
at. Yeah,
Yeah.
I bet the cost is intense. I bet it's
Mhm.
horrible to
Yeah.
travel so much. I mean, it's just that's where
Yeah.
all your money will go is
Well, it's
just
tricky,
to
yeah, and it's
travel.
tricky to recoup costs. Like initially, as far as like you're already kind of a bit behind the eight ball as far as costs to get over anywhere, and then to kind of recoup that is a
Damn.
bit of a thing. But yeah. So as far as with playing shows for Brute, like local shows, fairly kind of straightforward. We just book with kind of mates, bands, or people that we know. International is a different thing. There's been talk, like a few people have kind of asked about potentially like UK or the States. There's been
Mhm.
quite a bit of interest from the States actually, which has been cool to see as far as
Hell yeah,
asking if we can get
Idaho.
over there. Yeah, so yeah, also like and people like yourself as far as like promoting that and getting behind and supporting. So that's been awesome to see the feedback from the US as far
Yeah,
as potentially and hopefully down the track we can do something and yeah, bring it to life and get on the road, I suppose.
right on. As a musician, do you ever go off the genre, off and try other genres out?
I played, yeah. Well, I've played hardcore. Like a lot of my other kind of writing has been like, I suppose, New York influence hardcore stuff. Um, so yeah, really into hardcore. As far that's probably as diverse as far as my writing potential would go. Haven't ventured out to kind of experimentally as far as different genres. But I
Yeah,
listen to a whole bunch of stuff, so it's kind of I guess maybe it rubs off in some way. But um, yeah, I kind of like a lot of the kind of early reggae, that kind of stuff, and I
gotcha,
like hip hop, like a fair bit of kind of hip hop, like Aussie hip hop and stuff. So potentially that kind of weaves its way into the writing, but as far as trying too much or like branching out too much, probably haven't really got
gotcha,
that experimental really.
gotcha. I was wondering, what was I wondering? Yeah, okay. When you get Brute on the road, are you planning on sticking as the guitarist and a vocalist?
I think yeah, that's where I feel when I did the truth, that was a combination of playing guitar and singing. So I think it'd be a similar type
I
setup
think
for
you
that.
should definitely because
Yeah.
that's totally sets the atmosphere for your band. So I mean, it's like really, it's a unique way of singing the way you have it. So I mean, I get a pleasure out of it. I love it. It's refreshing because yeah, a lot of them, a lot of the Oi and stuff, yeah, they're great, but some of them just sound the same, so similar, you know. And it's like,
Hmm.
and you stand out like a sore thumb. So I'm telling you,
Okay.
good job,
Yeah,
good
appreciate
for
that. It's
you.
probably
Yeah, keep it going.
yeah,
Do
also
you have
no.
a do you have a song that's like a signature type of song that for you guys
As far
that
I
kind of
think
sums
probably
up what Brute's about?
I think we still believe. I think that's the first. That was the first demo for Brute that kind of set the tone for it. So I think
Of that
that
track.
stands out as far as I think just getting it. I suppose setting up the initial sound, um, and then also just setting the direction for the band. That was like again that was the first kind of thing that was released, and just kind of just did it as a demo and dropped it on Bandcamp, and it seemed to get a little bit of traction from that.
Yeah.
Trev from Crown Court shared it fairly early on, so that gave it a bit of momentum. I think that was pretty pivotal in kind of getting it to people just to hear that initial song. So I think that kind of sums up. I think the song probably New Voice. I think that kind of sets up the tone as far as not necessarily that the Brute is the new voice, but there's this whole kind of wave of newer bands that are coming through that are again kind of building upon what came before in the past as far as the oi scene or punk
Yeah.
scene, using that and also just setting like a bit of a new direction for it as well. Um,
Yes.
and just yeah, again reflecting on the past and like acknowledging that, but then also kind of taking from that and making its own thing as well.
Yes. Gotcha.
So I
So
think
you're
those are
local.
probably two that sum up. I think.
So you're local. Sorry,
Sorry.
we keep getting a little bit of Go
It's
back. You know what I
there's a
mean.
bit of a lag, yeah,
Keep clashing a little bit, but that's all right. That's all good.
yeah, a
I
bit of a
love to
lag
hear
with
you
the
talk. So you have a full length album in the works?
hopefully, yeah. So that's I think that'll be the next plan for the project as far as just yeah. So far it's just been kind of like little snapshot releases of like cover songs
Yeah,
or like kind of singles, I suppose, and then plus that EP. I think the next step for it would be just to kind of maybe take some of those songs, maybe not rework them, maybe do like a re-record with a new batch of songs.
yeah,
So I think yeah, natural step would be an album. I think just to
that'd be
kind of
awesome.
like yeah, set it in stone a bit. So this is a
I
project that's
mean,
kind of stands alone and yeah, its own kind of.
doing the EPs actually is not too bad for this type of project.
Mm.
if you keep putting out EPs that have like 5, 6 tracks or whatever, I don't think that would be too bad. And that be able
Yeah, I
to
think that,
you'll be able to
yeah.
put out more vinyls or more whatever. You
Mm.
know what I mean? So I don't know. That's just my opinion, but I would stick to doing
Yeah.
some EPs, and then of course we would love to have a full length. Not saying that we wouldn't, but
Yeah.
it's just there's some kind of nice energy about a solid
Mm.
EP. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
because you just put it on, you freaking rock your ass off, and it's like, oh yeah. Then you want more at the end of it.
Mm.
Sometimes when you put on an album, it's like after a while you want to put to something else sometimes, oh, that song
Yeah.
triggers
Yeah.
triggers me wanting to listen to Evil Conduct or this and that, so you
Yeah.
put those
Yeah.
on,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
so, but the EP always keeps you fully in the zone of the album, you know what I mean? So I don't
Yeah.
know.
Probably a bit more focused. I think yeah, that's a good way to kind of capture that energy. I think in a way that I think yeah, like you said, like an album, it's a bit more of a like sit down and experience like the whole kind of, and you have to be in the headspace to listen to an album. I think, but I think yeah, an EP, like you said, like that, there's a bit of energy I think around that that really kind of is a bit more targeted and um,
Like you
yeah.
can
So
focus the EP on like a certain, like make the whole EP on like all the tracks kind of focus in a certain direction. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
like a
Keep
theme
their
or like
head
something. Yeah,
in this one
yeah,
frame of mind,
yeah, yeah,
and it's like, yeah,
yeah.
it's just food for thought. Food for thought.
Yeah. And I think that's
You
been good as far as doing the singles as well, like with the yeah, so doing cover songs and then trying to pair that with a maybe like an original song that has the same kind of feel, I suppose. And that's with
exactly,
the Joy Division cover with Insight, there was a that Abandoned Hope original that
yeah,
kind of felt like it mixed pretty well and meshed as far as either themes or that kind of style a little bit more. So
yeah, exactly,
that's fun to kind of plan like mini kind of concepts in that as well. So
exactly,
I think there's a scope for both. I think probably it'd be good to kind of iron out a few things and the sound with EPs. That way you can kind of just lock in that kind of feel, lock in that vibe.
exactly.
Especially if there's members on board. If I'm looking at kind of getting up and running with a live show, it'd be good to kind of incorporate them in the writing, recording process as well.
Course, yeah, of course, and everybody's influences. Yeah,
Mm.
you can't. It's some of your best. Some of your best influences could be your own people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
definitely, you never want to shut your bandmates out. Never.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So,
Um,
so I heard you like doing covers. So
yeah. Yeah.
tell me about that. Like, what kind of do you plan on putting them on? I mean, they're on the albums. I didn't even notice. Did you do a
They're
couple
just on Bandcamp at
on
the
the
moment. They're
EPs?
just on yeah, Bandcamp.
Oh, okay.
There's so there should be I'm trying to think what's coming out. So there should be there's a seven coming out through Lionheart, which is Fire and Violence, which is this original, and then it will have Nation on Fire, the Blitz cover as a
Yeah,
B-side of that. So that's good. I think again that's that pairing between kind of similar themes and I suppose style, like a mini kind of concept thing. So that'll be coming out hopefully pretty soon by the sounds of it. Um,
awesome.
yeah. So I think that's just yeah, there's potential there. It seems like there's potential to kind of release that kind of little snapshot. It's again an album would be awesome. Like that, I think that's really a good way to kind of like set a tone or set a message as far as this is the project and this is like a body of work that's kind of come from it. But I think it's also
Yeah,
good just as little snapshots along the way, just to kind of keep a bit of momentum and keep kind of
of course.
in people's ears a little bit as far as this is still happening and this is still alive without having to kind of commit to like waiting for the album to be done, release, and it's a bit of
Yeah.
a so especially like a solo thing, it's a bit of an undertaking to drop
So
that.
when it comes to writing the lyrics, do you
Hmm.
put a lot of your soul into it?
I think in a way, yeah, it's either
Emotions, a soul.
I
How
think
do
so. I
you
think
go
that's
about
the
writing your
general
lyrics?
nature of lyrics. Like it's kind of something that's either experienced or you've kind of seen through, I guess, other people's experiences or yeah. So I think that's naturally the anything you kind of put out there is part of you, I guess, in a way. So without getting
Like
too fancy, but
fire, violence.
that's probably more
Uh,
an observed. To be honest, that's a bit more of an observed thing, like a bit more of a mesh of I suppose different like visual. It's more of a visual kind of thing, I think, as far as like things that maybe I've kind of seen like secondhand or like just a commentary, I suppose, of the state of some things, and it doesn't necessarily link to one particular like time or thing, but it's fairly universal as far as just capturing that kind of scene that has happened like all forever, basically since like our existence, I suppose. So I
yeah,
think that's
exactly.
yeah, just again
Since
some of it.
69, baby,
Well, that's
69.
it. Yeah, that's it. Um, but I think it's just more about yeah. Some of it could be a bit more like I'm a bit more detached from it. Like it's not necessarily like a personal experience, or it could be like little kind of scatterings of things that I've seen or been involved in. But some of it could just be kind of storytelling as well. So there's
Yeah,
probably levels, different levels of connection, I suppose, and that's going to be the same as people kind of listening as well. There's going to be different levels of connection. Their experience is going to influence how they kind of hear things and how
yeah,
they take it. So, um, yeah, but I think a lot of times it's songwriting is kind of storytelling as well. So whether
of
your own
course, yeah,
perspective or someone else's. So, so I suppose, yeah, I suppose there is a little bit of, like you said, like your own kind of soul going into it and your own kind of um, part of you kind of being expressed in some sort of way. So,
of
yeah.
course. So do you plan on having anybody collaborate with you, or does anybody want to collaborate with this project?
Um, as far as like an ongoing base or just
Like
like yes, kind
an
of
additional singer or
yeah.
somebody, does anybody want to come in and be a part of this project? At
I've got
least track or whatever.
yeah, yeah. So some of the guys from marching orders have I've kind of hit them up to see if they're keen to kind of jump on board as far as bring it to life, as far as the live side of things.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
as far as the writing process, that'll probably creep in as well. Like I'm sure they'll kind of want to be part of kind of contributing if they're that way inclined. It'd be cool. I reckon it'd be good at some point to get potentially like guest vocals or like people that kind of collaborate in that sense. I think it'd be
Oh
like
yeah.
a kind of in my mind, like I've kind of worked sometimes think like what vocals would fit well as far as a bit of a guest kind of appearance. So
Yeah, yeah. Guest
that'll
appearance. Definitely,
yeah,
yeah.
hopefully that'll be in the wings at some point. Yeah.
That'd be awesome. So you get a lot of gratification for writing music, huh?
Yeah, I think that's I suppose any musician that's why they kind of do it. Like it's good to kind of and this project has been really good as far as that instant feedback as far as writing. It's able to be recorded pretty quickly
Yeah.
and then like able to be like this day and age you can kind of just drop it online pretty quickly, pretty easily, and then get that feedback as far as yeah, that interaction with it. So I think that's in a way that's been good as far as again, comparing it to marching orders, marching orders it's a bit more kind of worked up with like spend time refining a bit further, whereas
Yeah, yeah.
this is more of a snapshot, and the nature of it is just you can kind of just bang it out, record it, and it's able to be released, and
Yeah,
not be
it's
precious with like a
this
lot
is
of the
like
stuff.
more raw energy
Yeah,
for Brute. And
yeah,
it's more calculated when it comes to marching orders.
Yeah, I think that's
I
the
mean, because
yeah.
yeah, because that brother, he's very he does a lot of thinking, does a lot of like mastering. I guess you want to say it
Yeah.
with his projects,
Yeah.
firepower and all that.
Yeah.
So I can understand this is more of a raw freaking in your face and energy. Yeah, I get you. It's more like how you can separate it into like here's garage type punk,
Mm.
and here's the Foo Fighters, or
Yeah,
something.
like
I mean
stadium rocket. Yeah.
more calculated. It's more organized, but at the same
Yeah.
time, sometimes it's nice to have that raw energy though, because
Yeah.
we're all people are spontaneous,
Mm.
and so having that raw energy just sometimes relates more with people
Yeah. That's right. I think that's
because life
that's
is
the concept.
chaotic.
Yeah, that's the concept of I think brute. Like brute can translate as raw as well. Like the translation can be like as raw, but then there's that brute art movement, which is basically based around kind of people who aren't like educated in art or trained in art and just expressing it how it came out. So I think that kind of links
Yeah.
into that art movement as well. So I think name wise, it kind of sums up what the project was meant to be as well. As far as it's a bit more, like I said, it's really raw. A lot of times, like if I record something, it's like a one take. I'll just use that vocally. Sometimes it'll just be the one take, not worried about being too kind of precious around re-recording or multi-takes. And just having the opportunity, just yeah, just kind of more like I think you summed it up like it's more spontaneous.
Yeah.
And because it's just like as far as a project band, there's not a lot of there's no back and forth between kind of like does this work, does this work? It's just kind of me trying things and whatever works and whatever sticks stays, and
Yeah.
if it doesn't, then all good and there's nothing lost. So I think yeah, I think the whole process, like recording, writing, recording, releasing, it's been refreshing to kind of be able to do that as far as
Yeah.
have a project that's instantly kind of you can release. You don't have to worry about kind of lining up practices after practice, refining it, which I love that process as well. I think collaborating is a different thing. And it's cool like to see how songs come out in the mix. Like you can have a demo, take it to a band or take it to the rest of your band, get their feedback, and it ends up like a totally different thing. So I like both sides of it, but this is just more of I suppose, just a way that I can just kind of release what I kind of feel at the time, I suppose.
Gotcha. Hey, Benny, we're almost done with our time, but is there anybody you'd like to thank for your success so far?
Yeah, I think
And
yeah, so I reckon so far Trev from Crown Court, like he just really kind of got on board with that first release of the first song, so that we still believe. And I think that was pretty again, like I mentioned before, like a pivotal moment as far as one getting it out there and just releasing. It was basically just on Instagram. Christian at Lionheart like has jumped on board, like um just really kind of ran with it. He got hold of like kind of the tracks fairly early on through a mate in Canberra, Tomo. So he'd released through Lionheart previously with another band or another couple other bands, I think. So he sent it through to Christian, and that kind of got the ball rolling as far as making it a thing, like a physical
fucking
release.
awesome.
Um,
That's awesome.
and that was awesome. As soon as it kind of came back, as far as like getting a physical copy of it, like something you've kind of worked on in your bedroom, it's
Yeah.
pretty validating to kind of see that's kind of like one, people are kind of getting on board, but then two, you've got a physical copy of it. So yeah,
Yeah.
and just everyone who's kind of got behind it. There's been a bunch of different kind of releases along the way, like tape releases, and it's hopefully coming out as far as
Standing out the champion, the great voice strong as